welcome to this edition of the Banner Press Sports Corner. Thanks for tuning in on your preferred podcast platform. I'm Nicholas Hodel, sports writer at the Redmond Banner Press, and while it may be still a little freezing outside with winter weather, hopefully in the rearview mirror for good this winter, signs of any kind of resemblance of warmer times are on the horizon with the arrival of the Blinn baseball season, now just days away, and it's a unique season of Buccaneer baseball as the program looks to become the 10th repeat champion in NJCAA Division I history after last year's JUCO World Series triumph. This year's team, though, is going to look a little different from last year's champs, and joining me now to discuss all of that is Buccaneer coach Dusty Hart. Thank you so much for popping in this week.
Absolutely. Appreciate you having me.
Absolutely, and we still have the paper from the ring ceremony a few weeks ago. Just where's that ring now within your office or setup?
I think I put it on the championship trophy just so when we bring recruits into the office, they kind of get to see the trophy, and then we let them look at the ring, kind of try it on. And
that is a smart play.
Hopefully they get to where they want one.
Yeah, that is a smart play. And just, I know we were talking the kind of after that ceremony of just how much that ring almost kind of inspires you to go after it again, and how special of a season this is to have that chance to repeat. Just what's that kind of mindset, and how have you tried to instill that within this year's team?
Yeah, there's only one team in the country that has a chance to go back-to-back, and I think that's not something where the stars really got to line up perfectly for you, and that doesn't happen very often in life. A lot of times things have to, for those things to line up for you, just very, very rare. So, our guys know kind of how special the opportunity is in front of them, and I think they're hungry. It is a new team, but it's still Blinn College. And so for those guys to carry on their tradition, and, whether they were here last year or new this year, they still got a chance to be a part of the back-to-back national champions, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, a lot of new faces and a few few returners, I should say, and one of the big ones, Caden Ferraro, utility player, pitcher, did a little bit of everything for you guys and really showed out also in Grand Junction. Just how well has he come along as far as from year to year, his improvements heading into this season?
Well, he's just such a leader. He's that guy that we couldn't have asked for a better guy to be back as far as a leadership standpoint. He gets after it every day. He kind of sets the tone for us, and as far as just the consistency he's like a 45-year-old veteran almost, the way he practices every day. So that's a little bit contagious, and the new guys see how bad he wants to go win another ring, and hopefully they can just buy in like he does.
Yeah, not too long ago secured his future after Blinn, Texas Tech signing there. It's just, I'm sure anytime you can get a player to Division I, you're always very proud to be able to do so. But it's just how much satisfying is that as the years go on to see more and more of your guys take that next step?
I tell you what, that's probably as satisfying as any part of this job. We love to win national championships and all that stuff, but at the same time, getting to watch your guys play on TV in the SEC, Big 12, especially in the big leagues. I've got to go see 4 or 5 of them make their big league debut, and what an awesome moment. And you can't be more proud of guys when they reach that level. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially with the way college baseball and really a lot of college sports, volleyball too, on that front, but the baseball in particular, it's on a very big upward trajectory. So it's got to be even more thrilling to see kind of college baseball taking off too.
Yeah, the NCAA, I'm not sure that college baseball is not more popular than Major League Baseball is right now. For whatever reason, maybe they market a little differently. I don't really know. I think MLB's turned into more of an international game a little bit where, and then of course the NIL and guys getting paid and all that stuff. It's really made college baseball, it's in a special place. I feel like we're in our golden era right now. I don't know that college baseball's ever been better than it is right now.
Yeah, and of course, the JUCO level probably benefiting from it a lot too, and you guys being an offending champion, that certainly is something to say in this era of college baseball. And talked a little bit about Ferraro, also Ethan Gonzalez at catcher. You have a team that has some different pitchers coming in. Just how nice is it to have an experienced catcher behind the plate who can kind of walk pitchers through all kinds of different situations?
Well, Ethan probably should have got a lot more credit than he did last year. He was really the only true freshman. Well, I guess Ferraro was a true freshman, but being a true freshman, he wasn't our everyday catcher till about the last month of the season. He was kind of switching off and on, and I thought that's kind of when we really took off, when Ethan kind of matured as a baseball player and took over the catching job. So to have that experience back, a guy that can lead the staff and get those pitchers through some of those tough times they're going to have, you don't always get that in junior college baseball because the turnover's so quick. But if I could have asked for two better guys to be back, Ferraro and Gonzalez, those have been two guys. We really like having those two guys back.
Yeah, what really allowed him to mature last year and be such a crucial part of that championship team?
I think just getting to play and learn and be in college, and the game's a lot faster. Even though it is junior college, it's so much faster than high school baseball. Everybody throws harder, the balls are hit harder, it's harder to block. It's just a higher level game of baseball than you're used to. So a lot of times those freshmen, it just takes time for them to get the game to slow down for them.
Yeah, did you see that in Ferraro and Gonzalez both a year ago?
Well, Ferraro was, like I said earlier, he's like an old soul. So he's always been that really mature. Like I almost forgot that he was a freshman just now. When I just said Gonzalez was the only true freshman. So Ferraro is a little bit weird just because he's so mature. You feel like he's almost another coach on the team, where Gonzalez, it just took that time for him to kind of catch up. But once he did, like I said, I felt like that's when we really started taking off, especially on the pitching side.
Yeah, and certainly had the pitchers that do that last year. Of course, players like Lucas Davenport off to that next level already. Just who are some of the guys that you're seeing in that pitching staff who can potentially be a Lucas Davenport for you this year?
Well, we got a kid named Hayden Morris. He's a 6'8", 260-pound right-handed pitcher. He's a grown man in an 18-year-old body that he's been up to 96 or 97. I think when it warms up as we go on and he continues on his path, getting stronger, he's got a legitimate chance to throw up some 100-mile-an-hour velos in the spring. So he'll be one of the guys we look to ride. We got a kid named Reese Wagner that's from Colorado. That's also a strong right-hander that's been mid-90s. You're going to see a little bit different team from our standpoint this year. I think our strength is going to be our pitching staff more so last year was our offense. But, I told our team 2 days ago, the easiest way to win that regional tournament's go throw 4 shutouts. It's hard to beat people 15-10 every game like we did last year. Really hard to do that. It makes your coach's life a lot easier if you just can beat somebody 2-0 every now and then and not have to score 15 runs. So it should be a different way, but the W's are the W's.
Yeah.
However you win, you win.
Yeah, and you mentioned the 6'8" Hayden Morris at Conroe and Oak Ridge. I'm seeing a lot of guys on this roster of 6'6", 6'4", 6'4", 6'4", 6'4", 6'5", 6'4", 6'5". Is there any kind of benefit to that at all in the pitching staff?
I think so. Just having that, angle on the baseball, you got that downward angle coming from a top. It makes it harder to hit for a hitter, and we don't necessarily do that on purpose, but I do think in recruiting you're always looking for arm strength, and then hopefully the pitchability translates with the arm strength. But the velo, it's kind of misconstrued. Velo just allows you to get away with more mistakes. If you throw hard, you can make some mistakes and the hitters might miss it just because they're throwing so hard. So you're always going to chase that velo in guys, but hopefully they can land a breaking ball and change speeds and do all the things that real pitchers do.
Yeah. So kind of talking about that pitching staff and being the strength of the team so far, just where do you think this team can have some room to improve as the months go on into April and May when we have to make that championship push?
Well, I think offensively just finding that right 9 guys. I think that's important. And it might be the same 9 guys. It just might be in a different order, like who's your leadoff hitter, who's your 3-hole hitter, And a lot of times, who's your 7, 8, 9-hole hitter? Because they're the guys that got to flip that lineup back to get back to guys like Ferraro and Ethan that are going to, they'll have a bigger shoulder of the load this year on offense. So we just need to play. We need it to warm up a little bit so we can get outside. But playing and just kind of finding that right niche of guys, the right lineup, it's kind of like a puzzle. You're just putting the pieces together, and hopefully the pieces fit at the end.
Yeah. And before I kind of dive into that a little bit, you kind of mentioned all this cold weather. We were talking a little bit before hitting the record button, just kind of dealing with this cold and especially Winter Storm Enzo. Ooh, all kinds of craziness with snow and Brenham, Texas, of all places. Just how have you guys been dealing with that over the last week or so?
Well, we're fortunate enough at Blinn to have the facilities with the Codney Center. We got the full indoor that we can actually do live at bats inside there. We don't get to play defense and take ground balls, but we do get to see live pitching, and the hitters get live at bats. So this time of year, that's what you're trying to do, is just see as many live pitches as you can. So that's one of the advantages of being at a place like Blinn, and what makes it one of the best junior colleges in the country is just the facilities and the support you get from the town of Brenham. It's second to none. Yeah,
I mean, what's so crucial about getting those live at-bats now when perhaps other programs may not even have the facilities to do so?
Yeah, I mean, that can be a game changer, especially early on in the season. Everybody is trying to find that right speed, and you can't mimic baseball. That's one of the things that makes the game so unique. You can only scrimmage as much as you have pitchers to throw, and so that's a reason spring training is 56 games or something. They play our whole season before they even play a game that counts. So for us, this non-conference time of year, you really just want to play as many innings as you possibly can and just give guys their shots and see who comes out at the end.
Yeah, and you guys also had a full slate of fall games, and including against Temple College, who you'll start the year off against. Just how much did you learn about this team during the fall?
Well, we're going to have a good team. I know we're talented. They're going to have to figure out how to win. You always got to learn how to win, and we'll go through some rough stretches where we don't necessarily play good. One of the reasons we play the schedule we play, you try to play the best teams that you can in the state of Texas, at least before conference. So you kind of figure out where you need to work, where your weaknesses are, and so you can start working on those and try to get those better by the time conference rolls around.
Yeah, absolutely. That's certainly a good point. You got to get everything fine-tuned early on before Region 14 comes in. Yeah, and Blinn Baseball head coach Dusty Hart with us in the Banner Press Sports Corner this week ahead of their season opener, which is coming up really fast against Temple on Saturday.
Yeah,
that's coming up really quickly. And when you kind of mentioned some of the hitting stuff and kind of figured out who the 9 guys are, perhaps the order of that. Perhaps later on down the line, you kind of get a good read on that. But for right now, perhaps who are some of those freshman hitters who are really impressing you before the season begins?
We got a big kid from Arlington, Texas, named Trey Craig, who's a big physical DH/first baseman. I think he's like 6'4", probably 225, and we've had him up to. I think he had some balls exit velo, around 115, which is even bit better than most big league average. So I think he's going to really supply some bigger right-handed power. We've got so many pieces, it's kind of hard to know for sure. I mean, they're all talented, so it's kind of like we're just got to throw them out there and throw them to the wind and see who comes out at the end. But there's a lot of talent in that dugout this year, which I just think competition, is healthy. I think it's good for them, and that's what's going to give them the ability to have success in the SEC or Big 12 or even Pro Ball, is that having to compete every single day and knowing that if you don't play good today, somebody's right behind you that might take your job.
Yeah, and just this entire freshman class as a whole that you brought in, just what kind of stands out about some of the intangibles that this class as a whole brings to the table for you this year?
Well, I think the the guys have really meshed well together, which this early in the year, it's not something you see all the time. I think guys are a little, not necessarily shy, but they just don't know each other. They're all in a new environment. They're all from different parts of the state of Texas or even different parts of the country. So there's no way to know if they're actually going to like each other, much less get along very well. And so to me, that's probably the biggest thing that stuck out about this group is just really, really good dudes that want to work every day and that like being around each other, which I think that pays off at the end tremendously. Because if they're all pulling for each other, that's really what you want. That's how it's supposed to work.
Yeah. How similar do you think that part of it is to last year's championship groups? I think I remember you in the ring ceremony saying just how much that group of guys just really liked each other and really pulling for each other. I mean, how much do you kind of see that a little bit in this year's group?
Well, right now it's very similar. It's very similar. The difference between, and it's yet to be seen on this year's group, but like last year's group never lost that. And what you're going to see is once we get to playing, there's going to be guys that don't play all the time that they may not have the same attitude that they have right now, which is really what made last year's team so special was the fact that the guys, even though they weren't playing, it wasn't an ideal situation. Of course, nobody wants to sit on the bench, and we understand that. But at the same time, like there was no negative attitudes. Everybody was so happy and so like just together. And I've seen those characteristics in this group, but it'll be interesting to see if that stays the same once guys kind of figure out, well, this isn't maybe the role I thought I was going to have. And that's just how it is, Unfortunately, only 9 guys can play at one time.
Yeah, it's tough. It's not like football where you can send out 11 guys on offense, 11 guys on defense,
right.
Let them have at it. You only got the 9 spots, and especially the pitching side of it,
yeah.
I mean, you only have the rotation and then a bullpen to work with. That's even harder.
It's going to be super competitive for innings this year because, if you walk a couple guys, we're going to have guys in the dugout that we can put in the game right now. Whereas, in years past, maybe you kind of had to stick with a guy a little longer. He walked, gave up a couple hits, and it's like, oh, man, well, we don't necessarily have anybody better than him, so we'll stick with him. That's where I'm curious to see how that pitching staff develops because there's so many good arms. I think we threw 16 arms on Friday and Saturday this week in our inter squads, and we had 2 guys that were under 90.
Wow.
So, I mean, there's some serious heat and some, really good arms on this year's club.
Yeah.
So
Is that going to make it a little easier or a little harder to manage games from your point of view and to manage the pitching staff?
Well, it's managing personalities, because we all have egos and everybody wants to play. I think you just have to try to preach that unselfishness to them and to really pull for each other. And, hey, when it's your turn, it's your turn. And if they are all good, that does make it easy because you can throw a guy 3 innings and then you can throw another guy 3 innings, and the drop-off isn't quite as big as typically it would be. But, hopefully they can all go out and be successful like they have been, and then we can have guys good and healthy by the end and strong when you really need them to be healthy and strong.
Yeah, and of course that comes in Region 14 play, which Region 14, I think every coach can say it's just a tough, demanding region to not just win games in it, but to win a regional championship.
Yeah.
And just where do you kind of see the early signs of this region being as far as the competitive factor this year?
Well, I know it's going to be a grind once again. It's always a grind. You can just pretty much bank on Galveston and San Jack and Wharton and Alvin and Coastal Bend. Like, you're going to have your hands full every single time you step on the field. And I do think it's crucial for us to win the conference. I think to be able to host the regional, that's a big advantage for us, especially at Blinn, because we get such a good crowd, and the city of Brenham once again comes out and supports us, and it really can give you that strong push at the end of the year. And I'm not saying you can't. If we don't win the conference, we can't win the regional because you want to win the last 4 games no matter where you play. But if we can win the conference and get to host that tournament for the 3rd year in a row, I really like our chances.
Yeah, and of course, having been to the NJCAA World Series in the previous 2 years. You could probably speak to just how big of an advantage that is to play at home instead of traveling the road when the postseason comes around. Just how big is that to be able to have the normal home routine instilled and to keep that in place in the postseason?
It's huge. I mean, getting to sleep in your own bed at night, getting to eat, getting to stay in your own routine. On the road, a lot of times you're sharing a bed, you're sharing a hotel room with guys. Like, you don't really do that the whole year, maybe once or twice. But being able to sleep and use our locker room and use the air conditioning when it's 110 degrees outside, and guys can hang out in the locker room. I mean, it's just – I feel like it's a big advantage for us, and it would be for anybody. So, I mean, you kind of have to attack the season in order of goals. And goal number one is to get through non-conference, find out what your weaknesses are, fix those before conference starts. Goal number two is let's win the conference so we can host that regional tournament. And then, of course, once you get in the postseason, anything can happen. But once again, like I said, I like our chances if we're playing at Blinn.
Yeah, and I think you and I could both agree that last year's postseason was the epitome of anything can happen for you guys.
No
just
question.
in the different roller coasters you guys had to ride. But the road back to Grand Junction starts again this Saturday with a doubleheader against Temple and continues next Tuesday against Northeast Texas Community College. What's going to be the big things you look for in both of those doubleheaders to get the year started off?
I mean, obviously we'd like to win, and get the year started off to a good start. But at the end of the day, the goal is not necessarily winning or losing. The goal is figuring out those puzzle pieces and how they fit. And we, like I think at one time we were 8-11 or 11-11 last year. So it took us 20 games last year to kind of find the right niche for every guy. So it might take time. It might take even more time this year because we do have so many new faces. And my goal is just honestly just to play good baseball. Like, I just want to see guys play hard, have fun, play good baseball, play harder than the team we're playing. I mean, that's really at the end of the day what it comes down to is who wants it more.
It's almost kind of as simple as that in the end, right? You could probably throw all the next-gen analytics out and kind of leave it to that almost, right?
I personally have always said, like, the team that has the most, competitive spirit is going to win every game you play. You can throw all the velos and all the exit V's, spin rates, all that stuff out the window. At the end of the day, it's who wants it more and who has more pride in doing what they're doing.
Yeah, and getting to the rest of this non-conference play, another doubleheader with Temple on the road, Amarillo, John Melvin University, Grayson, and then you have some games with McLennan kind of mixed into that really tough non-conference slate. Just how tough do you think the non-conference slate you've built is this year, and how much do you think that's going to help you guys out moving forward and as the region games approach?
It's tough. I'd probably put it up against anybody's schedule in the country, but at the same time, like that's what's fun to me, playing McLennan, probably 2 top 10 ranked teams in a night game, either on the road or at home. Just trying to recreate that playoff atmosphere as much as we can. There'll be a ton of people at the games. There'll be a lot of scouts at the games, and it just applies that little extra pressure to your guys that you might not necessarily get in a regular season game. And so ideally, that's what you want, is to have built up that experience. So when you do get in the postseason, it's kind of, it's just another game. There's all the scouts and the fans and maybe not quite as many nerves. But in order to do that, I feel like you got to play the best teams in the country to do that. It's just hard to recreate that postseason atmosphere in a regular season game. So we're just trying to do our best to kind of get them that experience before we have to get there. Yeah,
probably especially when it's cold and snow has fallen not too long.
Yeah.
Before. So, I mean, it's certainly a tough thing to do, and certainly wish you guys the best of luck this year and trying to recreate the magic. And I mean, it's a rare feat for anyone to try and repeat. Chipola, the last one to do it in 17 and 18. Then you got to go back to the Grayson teams that ended and started the millennium 1999 and 2000, and Crowley County of 97 and 98, and then San Jac in the 80s several times. So it's a really, really hard thing to do. But just, I mean, if you could put any kind of confidence that this group can band together and make a run like that, just where would you put that before this season begins?
Well, I think that's why these guys came to Blinn. You know, that's what we sell them on their recruiting visits is, hey, you want a chance to win a national championship, come to Blinn because we're going to have a chance to do it. And I don't look at it – I look at it like what an opportunity. I mean, holy cow, once again, how many times does this actually happen in life to have an opportunity to do something this special? And to me, you got to take the horse by the reins and go figure out a way to get it done. Because, you know, those guys, and me included, we may never have this opportunity again the rest of our lives. So just a special, special place to be. And, I'm just ready to get going.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fun season to follow along, of course, here at the Banner Press. And certainly thank you again for your time. Before we officially wrap things up in the Sports Corner, we're just going to go through Sunday and Tuesday and Thursday, this whole week, really. Hopefully next year we'll have another paper like this with another ring ceremony. But in the meantime, we'll have all that winter storm coverage for you this week on our website and in the physical copies of the Banner Press. Everything you're going to want to know, winter storm-wise, sports cancellations are racking up with the high schools, of course. School cancellations. Can't relate to your thing in the basketball court or on the powerlifting mat or anything like that. So to receive all of that local information that will matter to you, you can subscribe on our website, breadandbanner.com, or by calling 979-836-7956. Again, that website is breadandbanner.com, and that phone number you can call and let our folks take care of you with a subscription, 979-836-7956. There you go, 979-836-7956. Not getting that twisted. Thank you again, Coach Hart. We certainly appreciate it. We hope you have a very good rest of your week and get a chance to thaw off because I'm getting sick and tired of this cold. I don't know about you.
I feel you there.
Have a good one, folks.